dark occult mockery of its own cult members. Not only are those the people who are the supporters of slavery, not only are they doing the bidding of the masters of the world, but they're being ritualistically and symbolically, occultically mocked by the very people who they are serving. I gave an entire presentation on this at Free Your Mind 1 back in 2011. It's called The Occult Mockery of Police and Military Personnel. Highly suggest everyone here watches this video. They do it wordlessly through their symbolism. You look at all the symbolism. We talked about the hypercube being the symbol of hell on the forehead. They wrap the floor of the house of Freemasonry, the symbol of the first degree tracing board. The floor of the house means base consciousness, not understanding natural law, not knowing the difference between right behavior and wrong behavior. That's what the checkerboard represents. They're putting it around these people's brains, wrapping it around their brain. Inverted satanic pentagram symbolism, putting it all over the third eye and the crown chakra on the head, combining it with the checkered floor of the house. Here's more symbolism. The goddess, the Statue of Liberty, inside, the goddess of freedom inside the inverted pentagram. Then you have the octagon representing the hypercube. Oh, wait a minute, we have two squares of stars there. Another hypercube symbol. This is the trifecta here. You got, oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute, what's this? Oh, that's a trapezoid. How much more do you want? Here's the double square on this one, upholding the crown's right. I can go on and on forever. That's another thing Jay and I talked about. We're like, all the stuff we're talking about, we're barely scratching the surface. We could talk about this for days. You can go deep into all the symbolism and the mockery and all the different organizations that are interconnected. During the entirety of the time I interacted with dark occultists, they referred to the police and military only according to these two terms. They called them our dogs and our pets. Nothing else, no other term was ever used. I never heard them say the word police, ever. Ever. They called them our dogs. And for a long time, I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. It was like, I'm like, what are these people talking about, our dogs? What dogs? And then I finally made the connection. Whoa, they're talking about the police. They call the police their dogs. And it's not like, yo dog, you're my boy. It's not street lingo. They're calling them animals that are easily made into obeying their commands because they break their will. And they symbolize this by giving them dog tags in the military. This is a perfect representation of how dark occultists see the police. If I drew that, it could not have been any more perfectly represented. I don't know who did it, but whoever drew that knows exactly how dark occultists think about cops. Exactly. Okay? Because they are the puppet masters and these people are their puppets. The military and the police are in this position. And their ego is so strong and their free will is so destroyed that they look at it as a badge of honor to be in this position. As a badge of honor. Now, when you're doing something like that in dark occultism, you know you really have something strong going. Okay? Not only that, these people who the police attack dogs and military attack dogs are oppressing, look at that position as being some kind of a badge of honor and think it's honorable and virtuous. You're members of a cult. Police and military and those who are supporting them, you are cult members. It doesn't matter whether you don't believe it. It doesn't matter whether you don't think it's true. It doesn't matter whether you can't accept that because your ego is in the way. These are the people who own you. And they think they're legitimate in that ownership. I attended a ritual on Walpurgisnacht in 1997 in Whitehall, Maryland. just south of the Pennsylvania border. And it was in what you might call a mansion or a McMansion, not a high-end mansion, but, very, very rich neighborhood, let's put it that way. And after the ritual, there was a gathering in one of the rooms near the front of the house, and there was some refreshments served. And I was talking to a gentleman who looked something like this guy here. And this isn't an exact accurate rendition. A listener to my radio show and podcast drew this for me from a description I made. Technically, this person was outside. So if you look at that as a door there and he was on the other side of the door, it would have been much more accurate. He was guarding the ritual house, a member of the police. And again, Jay told you stories about the police operating in art and basically being aware of murders that were being done in their district and basically saying, better luck in the next life, kid. We know who's running this place. They're our bosses. They sign our paychecks. So you're shit out of luck. They got a police officer to actually guard the ritual house on this high holiday of the Satanic year. Technically, he would have been on the other side of a closed door here, but it was a glass door. So you could, well, it wasn't a glass door. There was a big window there, and the door was closed and locked. And he was on the outside of it on like a patio. But you could see him through the door. And while I might have been standing like, over here in front of this guy, he's absolutely laughing about how these people who we consider lower than trash are guarding us in our homes while we perform the rituals that we perform. And here's what his laugh sounded like. Almost identical. The choking or gagging aspect was even more like heightened because he was like eating while he was laughing. He was eating and drinking while he was laughing, like food in his mouth, okay? Like a gluttonous slob. And I'm telling you, that cackle or that force, like you can't even draw, you're laughing so hard you can barely draw another breath in. That's what it sounded like, okay? This is what these people think of the police. And you know what? Can't say I blame them. I think about them the same way. They're that big of a joke. You would enslave your own kind. What bigger kind of a joke is there? What kind of lower form of life is there than that? You deserve to be laughed at like that. You deserve to be laughed at like that. Here's what they call the people. Never referred to the population, human beings, the people of earth, never once. They call us the dead. Well, they don't call people in this room the dead, but they call the vast majority of the human population the dead. And they call people the dead because they don't exercise their thoughts, they don't exercise their emotions, they don't exercise their actions. If you're not trying to gain wisdom, your thoughts are dead. One of the three aspects of consciousness. If you don't care about what's really going on around you or in the world regarding your freedom, your emotions are dead. Care has been cremated. So the population is ignorant, they're apathetic, and they're inactive. They're cowardly, they're lazy. Their actions are deadened. So if all three aspects of what makes a person a human being, an alive human being, are inactive, for all intents and purposes, they could be looked at as dead, totally unconscious. That's how these occultists look at people. And therefore, their rationale is, we're not even doing this to a living soul. The soul hasn't even been activated. It's not really alive. It's just some clump of flesh that's animated. That's all. and they're performing these actions to a dead corpse. You know, that's how they look at us. It's not hard to see why, though. You know, it's what all these zombie movies are about. My friend told me, I talk to people and I try to tell them the zombie movies are about us. They're about the human population. They're not about like some outbreak, a viral outbreak that's going to happen and turn people into this. They're about the human population being dead, being spiritually dead. And people are like saying to him, no, you're wrong. That's not what it's about. Yes, it is. That's what zombie movies are about. They're about the population being spiritually deadened beings and overtaking the earth. Because they're certainly doing it. And here's a Bohemian Grove ritual about the dead from 1904. They're presiding over a funeral of, it's maybe difficult to see from afar in this image with the lighting in here, but it says, "Here lies Gus." You know, another name for the everyman, the average Joe. You know, we're all Gus. And it says, "Born every minute," and died August 8th, 1904. A sucker is born every minute. You know, that's how they view people. You know, they're living, they're presiding over the funeral, you know, with the dead in the ground with the mockery tombstone, just mocking us. Here's how they see us all. I broke this image down